there. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we had I don't know if I told you, the Corn Tigers. We recorded about 25 minutes worth of stuff, except we didn't. And
Oh,
then I saw the bottom. I saw the wave lines just keep like wiggling. They weren't doing the scrolling piece, and I was like, they shouldn't be wiggling like that.
oh, you
Yeah,
forgot to hit record.
we did, but then we remembered it
Yeah.
wasn't. Yeah, yeah, but then we got it. We got it.
Yep. I don't know. Has that happened maybe just one time?
Yeah,
But there's been many times I'm having a conversation and wishing I was recording it.
yeah.
Um, but nevertheless, hey guys, welcome back. It's Betty, and what was your name again, sir?
You can call me Dan. That works
Dan.
fine. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
excellent. Welcome
I've
back, Dan.
Thank you. I've slipped into something more casual, so maybe that fits
Yeah,
the theme a
well,
little better.
this is all about podcast, keeping it cash
Yeah.
in keeping it cash.
Mm,
Come on, say it.
mm,
Go ahead.
mm,
One time for
mm.
the people.
We're just keeping it cash here, folks.
Yay!
Just keeping it
Okay.
cash.
So we're picking up today talking about your podcast pitch. And I know that you have some frontline firsthand experience with
Yeah.
creating a business plan to pitch podcasting in your learning solutions. So Dan, talk to us about what's important here and what's your story even that you could share around pitching for your podcast.
Yeah. Well, luckily those two questions kind of overlap a little bit. It's part of the initial piece, and in the previous discussion, I had noted that there was a specific email that went out in my organization that I didn't know anything about that I thought was cool, and that's really that was almost a use case. Like, this cool thing, we could make this more of a cool thing that more people
Mhm.
could learn about and appreciate, and maybe hear some of the background on that. So that was kind of what was kicking around my head, and then to get to a level where you could pitch, there's a lot of legwork before that, right? There's
Mhm.
research not only into the technology, which we've touched on a little bit, but depending on the budget, depending on how enthusiastic folks are, you can give different options, right? And I have heard before that to give folks the platinum package, the pretty good package, and then the El Cheapo package, a lot of
Yes.
times you might. I know I'm the kind of person that doesn't like asking for stuff, so I would start with the El Cheapo. But you may get the pretty
Yeah.
handsome middle package if you just kind of give an option or an offering. So you've kind of got to look at what sort of solutions are out there, and that's the white glove stuff all the way down to you're just splicing everything together yourself. So you've got to do the research on the options that are available, and they're out there. If you just Google corporate podcasting solutions, you'll find something. And part of that, so that's the hosting, potentially delivery mechanism as well. So you've got to look into this. You've got to look into the existing skill set, which I know we touched on
Mhm.
earlier. Do you have a video or audio editing experience? And I'm going to just call it media editing experience, because
I
there's,
think that's good. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, even if you get into editing illustrations, there's layering that's involved to that. There's potential, which kind of is an analogous to tracks. So, there's an overlap. Yeah,
Mhm.
there is an
Agreed.
overlap. Now, did you have kind of audio and video editing skills before you got into podcasting?
Uh, it kind of they were very dusty and on the shelf.
Yeah,
I actually, yeah, because I had done. I don't know if you remember a program called Sony Vegas.
yeah, yep,
And that was my first experience with editing video or creating a video. And back in the day, I mean, that was, I don't know, 15 years ago.
yeah.
And then I hadn't used it for a long time and then picked up Camtasia at my day job. And I was probably about 6 or 8 months in, maybe a year at the most, into using Camtasia sporadically at my day job when I started podcasting. And so I started using Camtasia to edit because it's what I knew and I
Yeah.
already owned it. So I might as well.
Yep. Yeah, you certainly can. And that's one of the nice parts that you can include in your pitch, is that you may already have half of the solutions existing.
Hmm.
So when it comes to the ROI piece of it, which is an important part of the conversation, and it's sometimes difficult to quantify, like, how do you quantify your marketing campaigns that are internal that don't result in revenue? Like,
Hmm.
how do you identify that, right? So it's a little bit of a different beast. And that's why the whole conversation's been, how do we incorporate it into our learning piece? But it's not like you're probably not going to do a lot of build a faster widget through X, Y, and Z steps. You're not
Right.
going to do a lot of that. This is the stuff that's kind of the cultural piece that helps with footing around how to put those pieces in play or why it's important or something about the new line, So um, the so the technology is important, the delivery, the existing skill set. You have to identify what those gaps are, which is going to require a bit of reflection on your part. Because
Hmm.
maybe you're the person, maybe you're not, though. Maybe you need to outsource something. But it's not so hard. I mean, if you're interested in this topic, you're probably halfway there already. Um, I mean, that's one of the magical things about this. It ain't that hard. You just got to take a couple extra
Yeah.
steps to do
Yeah.
it. There's a lot of ways it can go wrong, like not hitting the record button. So you might want to put
Yep.
some fail-safe
Hmm.
pieces in place.
For
But
sure.
so I had to consider all these different pieces, and as well, like we talked about the statistics, the what is the potential existing audience in your organization. And what I found in my conversations as I was kind of socializing the concept in general is that as I started to poke around and say, hey, what are your thoughts on podcasting? Have we ever considered that here before? You're going to learn who the fans of podcasts are, and they
Hmm.
probably don't. Most of the folks that I listen to, they said, oh yeah, I love hockey podcasts, and I thought, well, that's cool. I couldn't care. There's no way I could care less about a hockey podcast, but that's not what's important.
Isn't that anti-Canadian? Like,
Yeah,
I
I'm not a
feel like that's.
practicing Canadian. Yeah,
Oh, I got it. Okay,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
that clears it up. Okay.
Interesting fact: hockey is not actually our national sport.
No,
People think that. No, it's lacrosse.
that was going to be my second guess.
Was it? No?
No.
See, no, it wasn't. No.
Hashtag go sports. I don't know. Go
Yeah,
team sports. No.
team sport. um, but you find out
Sorry,
who,
hockey
who the.
podcast. Sorry, I interrupted
That's
you.
right. Well, but again, I didn't care about a hockey podcast because I'm not a hockey fan. But you're going to find out who is at least interested in the format, right? Like, do you read books? I don't read books. Well, it's going to be a hard sell to people that don't read books why books are important. But
Hmm.
if people that are already in it, and maybe you're going to find a couple of them are decision makers. So if we just use the stats from before, about 30% of people that are 12 and above in America, about 30%, they are monthly, was it monthly or weekly listeners? It was something like
Weekly,
that. But
weekly.
okay, that's significant though, because that means 3 in 10 people you're going to talk to are a potential weekly listener. And if you
Hmm.
talk to enough, you're going to find a couple champions that say, gosh, yeah, that's a great idea. And then they help you socialize it. So that
That's right.
socialization is going to set some of the context to your pitch meetings depending on who you talk to. So there's also a time frame to this that was probably a 6-7 month time frame between conception and actual pilot.
Hmm.
And the skills that you're going to brush up on are going to be through your hobby podcast. If you don't have one, I encourage you, and I think Betty, you're kind of in the same page, right? You would suggest folks to do that.
Yeah, I would definitely suggest that if you're interested in this, that you start a podcast that's, about something that you like to talk about.
Yeah, not
Like
hockey.
not
Hockey if you want.
hockey.
If you want to do hockey, that's fine.
Dan started one to talk about being in quarantine and the Tiger King.
Yeah, yeah. So that was Corn
And
Tigers. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
and it
It was just
started there. Right. And then it kind of morphed into more pop culture
yeah,
and who knows what you'll make it next, but it's a great way to practice all the skills that you need to do a podcast.
yeah,
And not have everything not feel like everything's on the line. Like there's no performance review on your hobby podcast.
yeah,
No one ever comes to me and says, "Hey, by the way, if you ask Betty, we need to change this, this, and this." I do that.
yeah.
People might come and tell me they don't like it, and I just tell them unsubscribe, bro. So yeah, no, just kidding.
Don't worry about it. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, exactly. So
yeah. Well, but it's really important that you have that opportunity to make mistakes in a practice setting, so that when you go to your corporate
yes.
friends, you're not making very, very early rookie mistakes. You're going to make mistakes. I think everybody's going to be okay with that because they're not podcasters, so they're not going to have the really critical lens to judge you through
Hmm.
of, well, I do it differently. You're going to make some mistakes, but why that's important and how it relates to the time frame of this is, even if you don't have a hobby podcast, when you come up with this idea, you're going to have a few months to put something together, to scrape your knees, to grow some scars, and to kind of smooth those edges out. So this pitch that took so long, you're going to be finding who the fans are internally, and then you're going to actually have to go to a couple different stakeholders and say, here's my idea. So you're going to take the
Mm-hmm.
stats, say, here's kind of what I know is an existing audience, and if we just overlay that on top of our organization, we have, if you have 1,000 people, well, now you have 300 people that we can be fairly confident are weekly
Mm-hmm.
listeners to podcasts that they are interested in. Maybe we can become part of that.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, that's a great plan.
yeah, I agree. So that and that is part of the pitch too, is identifying who the audience could be. And now, honestly, this is one of the challenging parts to the pitch. Is it depends on kind of the nature of your business. It depends on comfort levels with information being shared externally versus internally. And it kind of also has to go back to, are you doing like the Big Daddy package, what I like to call the Big Daddy package of that
Mm-hmm.
white glove service? Or is this kind of you and your friends cobbling together a garage band? Because if you can control the information, and if you happen to purchase or subscribe to one of those sort of corporate communication apps where you can now push this to somebody's corporate
Mm-hmm.
device, it's a little bit different. And one of the ideas that I had right out of the gates was, if we establish this was part of the pitch. It didn't go in this direction. I kind of hoped it did. Maybe it will one day. I don't know. But I said, if we establish some kind of criteria or rules around what we might call acceptable content, that's going to
Mm-hmm.
make your friends in marketing more comfortable and your friends in legal more comfortable with the idea of what you're talking about, how you're talking about it. And if that's the case, if we can make it so vanilla that it's still meaningful to the audience, but it's not risky in a sense of exposure, then maybe you can just publish what's called an RSS feed. So
Yep.
it's essentially open to the world. But why I wanted to go in that direction was that you've got those 300 people that already have a podcast app on their phone. They can just say, add company XYZ's podcast.
Yes.
And then boom, done. Like your sales pitch is done. Or
Yes.
you're getting that that content to that user. That's solved, right?
Yep.
But there's different ways to play it. Or what are some other ways that maybe you've seen it play out, Betty?
Sure. So, and just to add on to what you said, like if
Okay.
you bake into your vision that the vision is that it's also available to the public,
Yeah.
then that sort of helps you set those parameters you were talking about, right?
Yeah,
Like,
that's right.
of this is what is acceptable for us to talk about. And like you said, it depends on your organization, your industry, if it matters. I know I had a guy that came through my podcast certification, and he worked for I can't remember the name of the company, but like they do like auto painting. They paint your car, they paint your
Yeah.
boat, they fix that stuff. Everclear, Evercoat. I think Everclear is a band.
Yeah. Good band. I saw them one time in Sarnia, Ontario. Yeah.
Anyways, something like that. And they were able to make it a public podcast because the things they were talking about were great applications of, their product. And so it was for their customers, when their
Yeah.
customers were like dealerships that use their product. So
Yeah.
it worked out. But what the other thing I've seen is if you're in the finance right there, if you're in the financial industry at all, it's very unlikely that you're going to be able to make your podcast public.
Yeah.
Not if you're going to be teaching about things or speaking about things that are internally focused. And that's fine. There are other ways to get around it. There are pretty cool platforms like Podbean and Blueberry that will actually create, like you mentioned, sort of an in-house, behind the firewall opportunity for you to publish. But you can also publish to YouTube as an unlisted. Throw your podcast image in there. You don't like it, I can
Well,
tell.
no, well, finish your thought, and then I do have a note. Yeah.
My thought is that if you publish it to YouTube as an unlisted, you actually make it a video because you throw an image in there,
Yeah.
and then you take the unlisted link and put it in your LMS. You can launch it directly from your LMS, provided that your employees have access to YouTube.
Yeah. That's important.
So, go ahead. What was your note?
So the note had to do with kind of a previous life where we had published things unlisted to a different platform. I was a different outfit, and we had published them to Vimeo.
Yeah.
But what was found after the fact and turned into a bit of a thing, bit of a sticky wicket, was that if you were using search terms, those videos would still come up. Now, I don't know if
Mm,
that was, maybe there was a toggle in Vimeo that we didn't use and we should have done, but we were
mm-hmm.
pretty diligent about making sure that these were unlisted videos, but even though they were unlisted, they were still searchable. I don't
Yeah.
know if that extends to YouTube's world or not.
That sounds like a Vimeo issue.
It could be.
I've tested the unlisted links
Yeah.
several times and not been able to find them in any way unless I have the link.
Hmm.
So,
Well,
so
no,
something,
then
yeah.
that's yeah, then that works. That works out well. Now
Hmm.
the only issue there is for those of us that are putting our legal hat and trousers on, is that you could still share that link with a friend.
You could.
So yeah, you open the link up, you copy the link, you put it in an email, you zip it off to your buddy, and now that content has gone outside of the walled garden that is your
Sure.
organization.
Sure.
Yeah. So, and again, it's what's the level of risk that we're trying to expose? Is it just something that it's like, well, you don't want your dinner conversation to get out in the world, but if it does, it's like, okay, this is weird, but it's not the end of
Yeah.
the world. Or is
Yeah.
it a trade secret? It's
I know. I don't. I mean, I could be wrong, but I can't imagine you'd have a podcast about a trade secret. Seems like that'd be like, isn't in the movies? Don't they like put that in an envelope and put it in a safe and then bury the
mhm.
safe and 6 feet in the ground? Like I
Yeah, and then
don't.
they mark the safe confidential. They just put a stamp
Yeah.
right on the
Oh
safe.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's right. Confidential.
yeah,
Yeah. So like,
yeah,
it's unlikely that you'll talk about something like that on your
yeah,
podcast,
yeah,
or any recording, even a recorded meeting.
yeah.
So let's do this. We've pontificated quite a bit about all the things you need in a podcast pitch. Can you give us sort of like, here's the 4 or 5 things that you want to make sure you do when
Mhm.
you're building your podcast pitch?
Yeah. So, okay, let's try to make it 5 things. I don't know. That seems like a good number. One of them
Yeah.
is you want to identify the various avenues of delivery. So, what's the delivery mechanism? So, you
Mm-hmm.
need to identify that. You need to identify an investment, which is related to that, an investment in
Mm-hmm.
technology, because part of it's delivery, which is also including housing. But then you also have potentially microphones, God
So
forbid,
equipment
cameras,
needed. Mm-hmm.
equipment needed, software needed, that sort of stuff. You
Mm-hmm.
also want to identify have a collection. We talked about this in the previous chat. Have a collection of maybe 10 to 15 topics that
Yeah.
are at the very least interesting and that others would find them interesting too. You'd want to
And
also,
I'm going to jump in.
yeah,
And you want those topics to, if whenever possible, align with initiatives or
yeah,
values, or something, the strategic objectives that your organization has,
yeah,
because that's going to sort of light up the room per se when you say, hey,
yeah.
by the way, all of these topics are mapped to here. They're going to be like, oh yeah, that's great performance support.
It really is. Yeah.
Look at that.
Oh, I see what you did there. You tied it to
See what I did?
performance. Yeah.
I did. I
But
did. Okay. Yeah.
but no, I think that's really important because if you can align those 12 or 15 topics to not only things that you find interesting, but they're things that the organization wants to push or is
Hmm.
trying to lift up, well, then you've automatically got partnerships developed.
Hmm.
And then
Hmm.
you've probably also identified subject matter experts that would want to come on, and they might not be the most polished people sometimes, but they want to
Well,
come on and they want to talk about the things that are important to them and the organization and how it moves them
yep.
forward. What
Agreed.
else is there? Maybe cadence. We talked about cadence a
Hmm.
little bit, which means you have to have a bit of a production plan. And then, I guess I think 2 different pitches, one to my boss, well, actually, my immediate boss. She was like, yeah, great, do it. And then the
Hmm.
boss beyond that, I needed to pitch a little harder to. And then you might want to actually flesh out what a pilot episode might look or sound or even
Hmm.
read like. So I think if you do those things, that's a lot of the way there. What do you think I missed?
I think you got it all. I mean, anything we've talked about, you want to put into that pitch somehow. That recording a pilot episode or a sample podcast, if you don't like the word pilot, some people really hate that word.
Hmm.
Like if a sample podcast will really help you sort of refine everything you're putting in the pitch as well.
Yeah.
So build your pitch deck, and then I hope the word pitch is coming across and it doesn't sound like something else. I feel like,
Would it sound like
anyways,
witch? You thinking witch?
What? Sure. Right.
Okay.
Uh-huh. So build your pitch deck and then record your podcast based on what you're saying. And maybe when you record it, you're like, actually, I need to go back and I think that we're going to tweak this and tweak that.
Yeah.
So it will help you to practice what you need to do. And it gives them, anytime you pitch any new idea to a business, you've got to have a prototype. You
Mm.
can't imagine that their vision will be the same as yours. So you have
Yep.
to sort of give them a prototype. So I think that's great.
Yeah. Well, I know you've got a lot of experience with AR doing that, and it's different. It's one thing to explain it, right? But then when you put it in
Yes,
their hands, it's
exactly.
that's when
Or in this
things
case,
that's
in their ears. Yes. Uh-huh.
oh my gosh. Yeah.
Look at that. All right. So,
um,
thanks for that.
yeah.
We've covered a lot about the podcast pitch. I think sort of the last like element I think we should talk about is the idea of promotion and persistence.
Sure.
Um, and you and I both agree on what we called promotion partners. By the way, I love alliteration. So there you go. Promotion partners, right? So those stakeholders that, like you said before, that you identify as, hey, these people like podcasts, they're going to be a champion for you.
Mm.
So it is okay to go right ahead to those people and say, hey, look, I know that you are a fan of this and I'm so great. It's so great that you're supporting it. Every time you see an episode, can you like freak out like it's awesome and you're so excited, socially in some way and help sort of push this forward and like set that up with them ahead of time that, that they're going to do that for you. And, you know, 99% of them will say yes. The people that say no were lying to you about being a champion. So there you go.
Mm.
And then 50% of them will actually remember to do it. So, get as many partners in there as you can. And then you have to have one other thing I'll say about persistence is just like anything else, you have to have drive and determination to keep going. Because once you get into this cadence and you start realizing, oh yeah, they were right. Like every time I record an episode, it's 3 to 4 times as long to edit it. Like that, they weren't just saying that. Like that's real. Like that's the thing, right?
Well, it's real. I know it's real for you. And it's a little bit different for me. I don't think it's 4 times as long to edit. I mean, I might say it's 4 times to get it to the shelf, but that might
Sure.
include like show notes for,
Agreed.
that sort of stuff. So
Yep.
there's other pieces. Yeah.
And if in your organization you're trying to create almost like a transcript so it's more accessible to people,
Yeah.
then that's even more time. But you
Yeah.
have to say, okay, you know what? I set up my cadence so that it's sustainable and I'm going to keep doing this because this is the right thing. This is what our business needs. This is what our learning solutions need. It might even be a great idea to have somebody else that does it with you so that or supports the podcast with you so
Yeah.
that it's not just a one person show and there's a little less stress involved that way.
Well, and what's kind of cool is podcasting. It's a bit trendy. I think we could say that. And I don't know if I don't think it's going away because it's been here for it's only gotten stronger. It might like dip a little bit once all the sizzle's kind of worn off, I think. But I think as a delivery platform for information, it's not going away.
Mm-hmm.
Unless somebody shuts down the internet, it's here. So
They
I
tried
think
to. They tried to.
they did, whoever
They
they
tried to
are.
shut down
They,
Facebook,
they give it a go. Well, there might
Instagram,
be,
WhatsApp,
you might
Oculus.
maybe there was a petition going around to shut down Facebook. I don't know.
Maybe.
I might
Maybe you
sign that.
signed it. Yeah.
Maybe
I
it's my
just said the same.
petition. But the reason I bring that up is because there's a good chance that there's somebody in your organization that could have an opportunity to learn some things. So now you're actually talking, this is a much smaller scale than what the intention of the program is, but
Mm-hmm.
fold other people into the effort so that they learn what they would consider to be valuable skills. They get a reward and say, dang, I learned how to podcast from my work. And
That's
now I've
right.
got my new thing. Now I've just started my podcasting network and I'm leaving
That's
work.
right.
I don't know how that goes, but at least it gives people a chance to learn new skills too. Again, on a small scale, but we're going to be impactful for somebody.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. Okay. So, Dan, how can we learn more about podcasting? What ideas and what resources do you have?
That's a great question. So when I first got into it like 9 years ago, there was a couple podcasts that I listened to about podcasting. One of those guys I know is still doing it. Dave Jackson is his name. He's got the School of Podcasting. I haven't listened to him lately because, my interests have gone in different directions, but he was very helpful in kind of getting set up on things.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it was just genuine research about how to set up a web page and develop an RSS feed. And there's certain things that you probably may, depending on how the technology plays out for you, you may not need to flesh out, but at least you need to be aware of what the avenues are. So you need to find podcasts that talk about, I think part of it is really critically listening to podcasts. And then just stumbling around trying to replicate stuff. You know what? For the very first time, just try to understand how your editing software works, goof around, play around for a little bit. And then that's the learning part.
Yeah.
Learning how tracks work, learning how to fade things in and fade things out, learning how to do noise cancellation, all those sort of pieces. So a good chunk of it is understanding how the software works, how the technology is going to work, and then honestly, how to frame questions and develop a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
That's
agreed.
So those are the kind of skills. Like, how did you learn about it when you started?
I learned by listening, for one.
Yeah.
And then I also just sort of went in there and used the knowledge that I already had about how to record things and got started. For me, it was trial and error getting started. Since then, as I'm more interested in just the whole operation of podcasting, I listen a lot to Evo Terra, Podcast Pontifications, like we talked about.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Don't get me started. So I listened to that. And then I also developed a certificate for Training Magazine that is podcasting for trainers. And so kind of walks you through, there's 4 weeks, and you basically go at the end of it, you have your very first published podcast. And it really goes super detailed into, coming up with your vision and understanding production and all of that. So part of learning how to do it was me teaching other people how to do it.
And it's so weird, but us being in L&D, that's a big part of one of the actual perks and privileges of being in this. You get to learn stuff earlier, and you get to ask the questions that nobody else gets to ask.
That's right.
Because you're poking at it. Yeah. So, I mean, we were talking about the pitch. As you're developing, ladies and gentlemen, as you're developing your pitch, include like Betty's certification course this would be helpful in helping us get a more mature product sooner. So,
absolutely.
Or don't. I mean, I don't offer a course, so I don't have a competition here.
No, but Dan is a special guest in my course. So if you're a Dan fan and not a Betty fan, still a win-win.
That's right. Who wouldn't be a Betty fan? Come on.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, Dan, you don't have to say that. Yeah. Anyways. Okay, cool.
What's left? What
else?
Learn
more. And then the last thing is, by the way, if you want to learn more, follow podcasters too. Follow me, follow Dan on social media, follow Evo Terra, follow your favorite podcaster, and just kind of see what kind of information they drop or what articles they're sharing. Let's not forget about the power of that social media connection.
That's true. And I used to learn, because I used to have a pretty significant interest in film and filmmaking. And you listen to the director commentary, you learn a lot of stuff.
You do. You really do.
Yeah, you get a peek behind the curtain by seeing what these guys are putting out on social.
Agreed. So then the last thing is just a reminder to listen to more podcasts. So listen to If You Ask Betty, listen to Mosby, listen to the Corn Tigers. You got any more?
Those are the big ones.
Those are the big ones
for now. Yeah, that's it.
You don't got one about hockey coming out anytime soon?
No, not this season.
And there's even some others out there that are super popular that I think would probably appeal to you if you're not sure where to start. I would say there's one called How I Built This that a lot of people talk about and really like. There is.
And are these podcasts specific, or are these just general interest podcasts that folks could listen to pull some information out of about
that second thing that you said?
Yeah.
Just general. So let's see, what's another one? Leader Chat, which is the Blanchard Leader Chat. So Blanchard talks with all kinds of leaders all across all industries about different things, including like Brene Brown and Simon Sinek. I mean, that's I know you probably don't know who those people are, but let me tell you something. That's a thing. Okay.
Why do you think I don't know who those people are?
Because it's fun to just mess with you.
Rude.
Let's see. Let me tell you another one. The Learning Geeks. Have you listened to this one before? That one's super fun.
No.
So I said how I built this. Armchair Expert with Dax Shepard is a
Yeah.
good time.
He's a bit too into himself. It's like every episode's a therapy session for Dax. I'm not interested.
People might say the same thing about you, Dan.
Let him.
Yeah.
That's fine.
So anyways, if you want other podcast recommendations, you can message us individually or together on LinkedIn or some other place. As you can tell, Dan and I don't necessarily have the same taste in podcasts, but we both love podcasting.
Yes.
So that is a thing. All right. Final thoughts from you, sir.
No, I think we've got a lot of thoughts that are out there. I could talk about all the different pieces for quite a bit longer, but I think we've covered everything pretty well. Just be patient with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Give yourself time and enjoy making the mistakes because you're going to learn from them.
Yeah, that was very good. I was actually going to ask you to give us some sort of inspirational, insightful quote, and you just did it automatically.
Yeah.
You want to give us your contact information too while you're at it?
They're going to be listed in the show notes. Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn though, Dan Hirt. Yeah, find me there. That's probably the easiest place to find me, where I put the most things. So yeah, find me on LinkedIn if you're there. But I have 2 different handles, one for Instagram, one for Twitter, and I get them confused constantly.
You do.
So yeah, one's Dan Talks Training, the other one Dan Talks L&D, I think.
The thing is, you can also just type in Dan Hurt and it will find you.
Should
HIRT.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's right.
And for me, Betty Danowitz on LinkedIn. If you ask Betty, on every other social channel that there is, including Snapchat.
Yeah, that's good play.
Trying to keep it easy. You could change one of your handles if you wanted to. You
should change them all. Say if you ask Betty.
No. Oh, well, okay, that's fine. I'm okay with that. The more the merrier. And then I'll leave you with an inspirational quote or thought or insight or whatever it is. And that is, that thing that you want to do, maybe it's podcasting, you should do it. Just do it. Still that last piece.
From I've never heard that.
Just do it. Never heard that before?
No.
Huh. What do you know? Hey guys, thanks for sticking around with us and listening, and hopefully you had a good time. If you enjoyed this, drop us a line. Let us know. We want to know that we're helping you out. So we would appreciate that. All right. Peace out. Talk to you guys later.
Bye, guys.
Bye.